Senate Joint Resolution 170 is a resolution to condemn both the global anti-Semitic boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement and the increasing incidence of anti-Semitism in Tennessee. This resolution comes as a result of hate crimes targeting Jews and anti-Semitic acts, such as the one recently committed right here against a Jewish fraternity at Vanderbilt University. The state of Tennessee and Israel have a long history of close friendship in support of each other's interests. Tennesseans have long recognized that Israel is our only trusted ally in the Middle East. In 1996, Governor Don Sundquist signed the Israel Cooperation Agreement, resulting in strengthening the historic ties and increasing business, governmental, art, cultural, educational, and university activities between Tennessee and Israel. Tennessee's elected leaders continue to publicly reaffirm our unequivocal support for the Jewish people and the sovereign state of Israel. And today, incidents of anti-Semitism are on the rise around the world and in the United States. The boycott, divestment, and sanctions movement especially works to spread hatred for Jews and the state of Israel by calling for the elimination of the Jewish state. Recent anti-Israel rallies across the state have adopted the BDS slogan, and it goes something like this: "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," meaning that the Jewish homeland should cease to exist. We should choose to preserve our values by publicly condemning this blatantly anti-Semitic, anti-Israel bigotry and send a clear message that Tennessee condemns such views. We must make it very clear that peace and justice requires all our peoples in the region, that they have human rights and dignity, and that we oppose political agendas that seek to undermine Jews and Israelis. This resolution seeks to do just that. Mr. Chairman, I would ask if we could go into recess to hear from, among others, Ms. Lori Cardoza-Moore, who's the president of Proclaiming Justice to the Nations, to hear her profound insights. Mr. Chairman, I might add that Ms. Cardoza-Moore is also the special envoy to the United Nations for the World Council of Independent Christian Churches.
Chairman McNally, thank you so much for allowing me this opportunity. Vice Chair Watson, thank you so much, and all of our distinguished Senate members. Senator Gresham, I want to thank you again for taking the lead on this important issue. BDS is an international anti-Israel, anti-Zionist propaganda campaign, and by extension, an anti-Jewish campaign. It calls for the boycotting of Israeli products, academics, and cultural leaders, pressuring companies to stop doing business with Israel and divesting from companies that do business with Israel, sanctioning Israel for its legitimate self-defense measures to protect Israelis and all of its citizens from terrorism, Hamas rockets, and missile attacks from suicide bombers. BDS deploys troubling tactics to turn the public against the world's only Jewish state, Israel, such as double standards, singling out Israel for criticism while ignoring the fact that many liberal democracies have similar problems, and while ignoring countries that are major human rights abusers, such as Iran, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Sudan, Nigeria, North Korea, and China. It seeks to demonize Israel by distorting or falsifying Israel's actions and making false comparisons with the Nazis in apartheid South Africa. It seeks to delegitimize Israel, denying the Jewish people's right to self-determination and independence and its right to exist among the family of nations. It seeks to deploy classic anti-Semitic accusations against Israel, accusing Israel of blood libels or intentionally killing Palestinian children, accuses them of genocide, of greed, and being the cause of all ills in the Middle East. BDS deceptively uses human rights rhetoric, but BDS's long-term goal is anti-human rights, winning support for the elimination of Israel as the democratic state of the Jewish people. BDS campaigns undermine hopes for a peaceful and just resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Though BDS claims to be pursuing social justice for Palestinians, the campaign has made it easy and socially acceptable to give voice to anti-Semitism, but not be labeled anti-Semitic. Global leaders like Canada's Prime Minister Stephen Harper observed that BDS is the face of anti-Semitism. It targets the Jewish people by targeting Israel and attempts to make the old bigotry acceptable for a new generation. BDS attacks Zionism, the national liberation movement of the Jewish people. Martin Luther King Jr. said that when people criticize Zionists, they mean Jews. You're talking anti-Semitism, unquote. In conclusion, with the current climate of increasing anti-Semitism, anti-Israel and anti-Zionist campaign, Tennesseans and all people of conscience should endorse public statements of support for Jews living in Tennessee and/or pro-Israel students attending colleges and universities in our state. We must make clear that peace and justice requires all peoples in the region to have human rights and dignity, and that we oppose political agendas that seek to tear down Jews and Israelis. Elie Wiesel said it best a few years ago when he said, "We are facing today a new anti-Semitism. That anti-Semitism is similar to the anti-Semitism we saw in Nazi Germany. But this time, it's not just anti-Jewish. It's anti-Israel and anti-Zionist as well. But its goal is the same: to delegitimize Israel's right to exist, ultimately to dehumanize the Jewish people. This is unacceptable for our state in Tennessee, and I appreciate each one of your support."
Thank you.